بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه وبعد. I'm going to begin with a short story, inshallah. How many of you speak Urdu? Raise your hand. Oh, mashallah. So that's almost 2 people and a half. So there's this story of a guy who was walking in the forest. It's a beautiful day, mashallah. So the birds were singing, the sun was shining, and the flowers and the breeze. It was a beautiful day. Faj'a, all of a sudden, this man who was walking in the forest, he saw a hungry lion coming towards him. So the guy freaked out and he panicked and ran for his life. So he started to run to look for a shelter, and eventually he found a well, bi'ru al-ma', in front of him. So he jumped inside and he landed inside a bucket, al-gardal, al-dalu, and it was hanging by a rope. So he was there stuck in the bucket, and he looked up and the lion was up there opening its mouth. So he said, dude, it doesn't get any worse than this. He looked down, he tried to get down, he saw a big anaconda, thu'banun kabir, and it was big enough to swallow him up. He said, dude, it can't get any worse than this. And all of a sudden, faj'a, 2 mice climbed up the rope and they started to chew on the rope. So the lion was up there, the anaconda was down there, and the guy panicked because the 2 mice, one white, one black, they started to chew on the rope. And he started to swing left and right, left and right, left and right. If you read the story, they say left and right for like 5-6 pages. So fast forward, he felt like there was a honeycomb on the wall of the well, khalit, nahl. So he tasted the honey. It was so sweet, mashallah, biryani flavored. So he started to eat. And he totally forgot about the lion. He totally forgot about the anaconda and about the 2 mice. Faj'a, he woke up. So he basically had a nightmare. So he went to Maulana to explain to him. And he said, you know, you basically were walking in this forest, this beautiful forest. This is basically this dunya. And the lion came towards you. And this is like Malakul Maut. Then you jumped inside the grave, which is the bi'r, the well. And he said, okay, what about the 2 mice? He said, these are the day and night. They're chewing on your life. What about the honey? He said, this is the ghurur dunya, mata'u dunya. These are the distractions of dunya. They distract you from the purpose of your life, why you are here. And this also reminds me of another story. Do you know what the word kharuf is? Kharuf? Anyone? Kharuf? Yes? Jazakallah khair. You already got a candy. So basically, this is a family from Toronto. They bought a kharuf for Eid al-Adha, Qurbani. And that was like a month before Eid al-Adha, Qurbani, Eid. So they kept the kharuf in the toy room in the 10th floor. So they took good care of the kharuf for 1 month. They fed the kharuf. They gave him a bubble bath every day. MashaAllah, they treated him nicely. They gave him ice cream. They gave him lollipops and all the good stuff. And they reserved a seat for him on the table, so he felt like a royalty. They even gave him a special name, Zizu. So he felt very special, MashaAllah. So on the day of Eid, they went, they prayed Salatul Eid, and they came back and they stood in the balcony with Zizu, the kharuf, the sheep in the balcony, and they saw their neighbors taking their kharufs, their sheep one by one for sacrifice. And they noticed the sad look on Zizu's face. And they said, Subhanallah, why are you sad? Aapki saath koi mushkil hai? What is the problem? Why are you sad? And he said, I'm sad because everyone got a kharuf to sacrifice today except us. This is the kharuf, the sheep speaking, right? So sometimes we behave in the same way. We feel like we're this kharuf. We forget the purpose of our life, what we're doing here. You're here to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a number of years. And as we say, zindagi bahut mukhtasar hai, you know, life is very short. Al-hayatu qasira. Then eventually we will leave. Nuh alayhi salam, he spent 950 years in da'wah, true? Alfa sanatin illa khamsina ama. But many ulama, they say he was 1,700 years old when he died. He lived a long life. And he was asked, how do you see your long life in this world? And he said, Subhanallah, my life was so short, it felt like I entered my house from the front door and I left from the back door. It was that short. في التذكرة الإمام القرطبي said that a woman came to Nuh alayhi salam, she was in tears, and she said, my son died. He said, how old was he? And she said, he was only 300 years old. Miskeen, poor guy, like grade 2, 300 years old. Because they used to live a long life, like 1,000 years, 2,000 years. You know, if Nuh alayhi salam felt like he entered from the front door, he left from the back door, he lived 1,700 years, what about the masakin like us? 60 years, 70 years? You died in the living room, basically. You didn't make it to the back door, right? So our lives are very short. So with this in mind, you have to think about leaving a legacy. And a legacy basically is something that you will be remembered for. You will leave a mark that will benefit humanity, something that will benefit the community, inshallah. Usually I teach, the students of an Islamic school, I give them talks. So I ask them, before I explain to them what the concept of legacy is, and I say, what would you like your legacy to be? And they say, I play 10 hours iPad every day. This is my legacy. Or I eat the most biryani. Or my phone rings all the time in the salah, and I turn the imam's life into living hell. I make him miserable all the time. And I say, dude, this is not a good legacy. This is not a good legacy. A legacy is something good that benefits humanity or the community, right? It has to be something good. So now, when we think about legacies, if you would like to do something on a professional level, you have to copy those who are the masters or the experts in the field. So basically, if you would like to learn Quran, then I would recommend you to learn from Minshawi, Husari, Abdul Basit, Abdul Samad, some of the great Qur'an, then you develop your own style. Let's say if you'd like to play soccer, or maybe copy Messi, Ronaldo, or Muhammad Salah, and so on and so forth. You always copy the best, then you develop your own style. And if you'd like to leave a legacy behind, the stars of this ummah are the Sahaba of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, right? So copy the example of the Sahaba. They are the best generation among Muslims, and I'm not making this up. These are the words of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He said, "Khayrul quruni qarni." The best generation among Muslims is my generation. Qarni, my generation. And I heard once from one of the shuyukh, and he said, subhanAllah, the word that Rasulullah ﷺ used is qarni, my generation, the generation of Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman Ali. He said, even when you look at the word qarni, qaf, ra, noon, ya, qaf is the last letter of as-Siddiq, radiallahu anhu. Ra is the last letter of Umar, noon is the last letter of Uthman, and ya is the last letter of Ali, radiallahu anhu. Qarni, right? So this is something to think about. So basically, if you want to copy the example of the Sahaba, there are certain things, a few points that I'm going to mention, inshallah. I'm not going to take much of your time. Number one, and Sheikh Hussam, you heard the story before, but I'm going to repeat it anyway. So you have to have a positive attitude towards life. If you want to leave a legacy, you have to have a positive attitude. And this is something that Rasulullah ﷺ taught us. I like this hadith very much. So basically, this is Muslim Imam Ahmad. Rasulullah ﷺ visited A'rabi. And the A'rabi basically had a fever. So Rasulullah ﷺ عاده, yani he visited him and he said, okay, لا بأس طهور إن شاء الله شفاء. I promise you, I give you the good news of shifa. And the man said, okay, what shifa are you talking about? This is a fever, it will finish me off, I'm doomed. So Rasulullah ﷺ said, okay, if this is what you want, you got it. Right? I'm promising you shifa. I'm making dua that Allah will give you shifa, but you don't want this. You are doomed. You want to die. This is what you want. Khalas, let it be. So Rasulullah ﷺ liked positive attitude. So you have to have this attitude in life. And I always say that the people you live with or study with or work with, there are two types. I'm a farmer from Egypt. I was born and raised farmer, and I worked for 20 years on the farm. Right? So when I was young, I used to see the bees and the flies, flying in the farm. And they see everything from the top. Then I realized that the bees always landed on flowers and the flies always landed on garbage. People are the same way. Some people are positive, they see positive things. And some people, they don't see anything good in their life, they keep whining all the time. So if you give the first guy, the person with the bee eye, if you give them a banana, They will thank you. Oh, subhanallah, this is amazing. Bananas are seedless. They are positive. They see positive things. Are easy to peel, easy to chew, easy to digest. You give it to someone with the fly eye, they say, oh, yellow, ugly. No, it's a matter of perspective. Rasulullah ﷺ had the BI. He was always grateful. He was always positive. And he appreciated positiveness. So basically in another hadith in Musnad Imam Ahmad, a poor man came to Rasulullah. He was sitting with a Sahaba. And he said, Ya Rasulullah, give me something to eat. So Rasulullah, he had 3 dates. He gave him the 3 dates. The man, فَاسْتَسْخَطَهَا. The man was not too happy. And he said, what is this? 3 dates? What am I going to do with 3 dates? Right? فالفرق بين سخطها واستسخطها. When you add more letters to the verb, it adds more intensity. اصبر, ما الفرق بين اصبر واصطبر? You add a ta, it means it's more. In the Quran, وهم يصطرخون فيها, not يصرخون, يصطرخون, which is more, right? When you add more letters, it adds to the meaning. So the man was not too happy and he left. He rejected the dates and he left. Another man came after. Rasulullah offered him the 3 dates and the man was so happy. He said, Tamaratun min yadi Rasulullah, 3 dates from the hands of Rasulullah. What a great honor. And Rasulullah said, and for your positive attitude, you're getting 40 dirham on top. You're getting 40 silver coins on top. He gave him an extra gift. So this is something that Rasulullah appreciated, being positive. You will see life in a different light. But if you keep whining and complaining, you're not going to achieve much. The story that I like to repeat, the story of the old man who was picked up from the road in a critical condition and they took him to the hospital and he was dying. They took him to the hospital and he looked in the intensive care unit and he saw the doctors and the nurses panicking and freaking out and scrambling around trying to save his life. The reason why they panicked, because they didn't know his name, they didn't know his blood type, they didn't know his family doctor, they didn't know anything about him. And this is why they panicked. So he wanted to reassure them. So basically he lifted his oxygen mask and he said, be positive. And he said it for like 30 times, then eventually he died. But the doctors and the nurses always appreciated this guy for his positive attitude. This is the last nasiha that came out of his mouth. Be positive, be positive. Eventually, after janazah, they realized that this dude was not actually asking them or motivating them to be positive. He was just telling them his blood type. Be positive. That's it. And he died. But this is something to think about. Take advantage of your time. Once a day is gone, it is not coming back, right? You think, subhanallah, about someone like Imam al-Nawawi. If you have not heard about Imam al-Nawawi, if you don't know about Riyadh al-Salihin or the 40 Nawawis, don't come back to this masjid, right? Go somewhere else. 40 Nawawis, Riyadh al-Salihin, they always list them next to Bukhari. Right, among the most famous books in Islamic history, especially in Hadith. And this man was amazing. Imam al-Nawawi, tens of books in fiqh, in Hadith, in this, in that, in lugha, and so on and so forth. And subhanallah, he was asked why you didn't get married, and he said, I was so busy with my books and studies and teachings, I really forgot. He forgot to get married. So al-Imam alladhi mala al-arda ilman, Imam al-Nawawi, who left a lot of knowledge behind, died under the age of 45. Imam al-Nawawi was my age when he died, right? So basically, this is something to think about. The people like Sa'd ibn Mu'adh, when he died, he was 36. And Rasulullah ﷺ said, when Sa'd ibn Mu'adh died, tens of thousands of angels came down for his janazah, right? You hear about, how many of you heard of Al-Minshawi, the famous Qari? Al-Minshawi, yeah, many of you, mashallah. I think, wallahu a'lam, we have 2 styles of qira'ah. There's tartil, like the one in salah, and tajweed. Like the loud one, the melodious one. Like this one. This is called tajweed, mujawwad. So I think when it comes to tartil in salah, Minshawi is number 1. He died in 1968. When it comes to tajweed, I think Mustaffa Ismail is number 1, right? I'm biased. Minshawi, alladhi mala al-arda Qur'anan, he was only 49 when he died. Very young, and still till this day, he is one of the most famous Qari. And the reason is, these people that I mentioned, they didn't count the years, they just made the years count. And this is something that you need to think about. How many of you heard of Abu al-Qasim al-Shabi? Abu al-Qasim al-Shabi, mashallah, like 5 or 6 of you. Abu al-Qasim al-Shabi, this guy is the greatest poet in Tunisian history. The national anthem of Tunisia comes from this guy. إِذَا الشَّعْبُ يَوْمًا أَرَادَ الْحَيَاةَ فَلَا بُدَّ أَنْ يَسْتَجِيبَ الْقَدَرِ. You know the poem. He died under the age of 25. He was only 25 when he died. And he left a great legacy. So, again, don't count the years and the days. Make the years and the days count. Right? So now we will talk about the Sahaba. Number one thing we learn from the Sahaba. I'll be done in 5 minutes, inshallah. The number one thing we learn from the Sahaba, sincerity, right? I'll give you one example which will blow you away, right? So basically, we heard of Khadija radiallahu anha. Jibreel radiallahu anhu came to An-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and told him, and this is in Bukhari, Khadija radiallahu anha will come to you in a minute with food or something. فَأَبْلِغْهَا مِنَ اللَّهِ السَّلَامِ. Allah Himself is sending her salam. وَبَشِّرْهَا بِبَيْتٍ فِي الْجَنَّةِ مِنْ قَصَبٍ. Give her the bishara of a palace in Jannah that is made of pearl. Okay, so she got salam, special salam from Allah Himself, and she got the bishara of a palace in Jannah. Okay, when we think a little bit about Khadija radiallahu anha, she will be in the highest places in Jannah. Number one, every single one of you in this room, you prayed more 5 daily namaz than Khadija radiallahu anha. She didn't pray 5 daily namaz because the daily namaz, the 5 daily salawat, they came in Isra al-Mi'raj after her death. She didn't fast any Ramadans. You guys prayed more Ramadans than her because Ramadan came in the 2nd year of Hijrah, almost 3 years after her death. No Hajj, nothing. She didn't do much. But she had sincerity. She had ikhlas to Allah and His Prophet. And this is why Allah elevated her in rank. Imam Ibn al-Qayyim radiallahu anhu, he said something similar about Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. He said Abu Bakr as-Siddiq did not die shaheed like Hamza. He was not tortured like Bilal. He said some Sahaba, they prayed more than him, they fasted more than him. How come that when Rasulullah ﷺ spoke about al-Ashra al-Mubashsharina bil-Jannah, who got the news of Jannah, Abu Bakr is number one, he will be in the highest places. Why? He said because لِشَيْءٍ وَقَرَ فِي قَلْبِي, because of his sincerity. So make sure inshallah that you always renew your intention. If you do something good, have I done enough? Was my intention fi sabilillah or just showing off? If you did something wrong, why did I do it? I should do better next time. So you should always question your niyyah, sincerity. Number two, something that the Sahaba did, and this is amazing, istidraku ma fat, making up for what they missed in the past. Right? So basically all of us here, including myself, we had some, I call them the Jahiliyyah days. When you were young, like 17, 18, we were not very particular with Salah. We played games with Allah, you know. We're not very particular about the truth. We're very flexible with the truth here and there. So we made mistakes in the past. Now when you start to practice, you need to make up for those days. Praying a little bit more at night, giving more sadaqah, Mondays, Thursdays, you know, to make up for that stuff. I'll give you one proof, inshallah. Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu, he came before Fath Makkah to give bay'ah to Rasulullah and accept Islam. So Rasulullah put his hand out to give bay'ah to Amr. Amr put his hand out, then he took his hand back. Rasulullah said, okay, what's wrong? And he said, Ya Rasulullah, something along the lines of, I have done so much harm to Islam in the past. I've committed so much sins. And Rasulullah reassured him. He said something along the lines of, no matter how big your sins are, they are not bigger than the mercy of Allah. And he said, as soon as you take Shahada, you become Muslim, يَجُبُّ مَا قَبْلَهُ, all the past is forgiven. You start a new sheet with Allah. If you do Hajj, you start a new sheet, all the past is forgiven. Shahid, which is in Sahih Muslim, this hadith is in Sahih Muslim, Amr radiallahu anhu said, Ya Rasulullah, for every dollar that I paid in the past to attack Islam or stop you from accepting Islam, now I'm going to give 100 to support Islam and the cause of Islam. For every hour that I volunteered to attack Islam and Muslims, now I'm going to put 100 hours to support you. This is what we call making up for what you missed in the past. Number three, السؤال عن أفضل الأعمال. This is something amazing that the Sahaba did, right? So basically the Sahaba, there are so many hadith in Bukhari, Muslim, other books, they would come to Rasulullah and they say, Ya Rasulullah, ma ahabbul a'mali ilallah. What are the most beloved deeds to Allah? The deeds that Allah loves the most and they generate the most hasanat. The most amazing thing is every single time Rasulullah gives a different answer. So one time he will say, birrul walidain, take care of your parents. Another example he will say, as-salatu ala waqtiha, pray on time. Another example he will say, give zakah, sadaqah, feed the poor. Every time there is a different answer. Why? Because Rasulullah ﷺ, before he gave the answer, he would look at the person who is asking the question and he would give them an answer that is suitable for them. So if it was a youth, he would tell them, take care of your parents. A rich person, he will say, feed the poor, give sadaqah. A poor person, he will say, oh, do salah or fast, something that they can afford. And the amazing thing about the Sahaba, they didn't stop at that. If they asked about the best deeds and Rasulullah gave them an answer, they didn't stop there. If Rasulullah said, zakah is the best thing, they would say, okay, what is the best type of zakah? And Rasulullah ﷺ would say, الزكاة على ذوي الأرحام الفقراء, giving zakah to your poor relatives. So technically there are three people that you cannot give zakah to: your parents, your wife, and your kids. You have to provide for them anyway. But you can give zakah, sadaqah to your poor brother, poor sister, uncle, aunt. You guys say aunt? Because there is a big difference between aunt and ant. I hear you saying ant all the time. Ant is the insect, right? So one time, one guy, I was innocent in the past, gullible, naive. This guy came with tears in his eyes and I said, his aunt just died. And I said, okay, what is the big deal? There are millions of those in my backyard. What a horrible way to end the relationship. He's not my friend anymore. I thought he had an ant for a pet. I didn't know, right? So basically, the Sahaba would ask about the best deeds, and not only the best deed, what is the best type of that best deeds? And this is what makes them different from many of us, right? And Imam Husam knows, I share some of those stories with him. Wallahi, one day, the day of Eid al-Adha, I'm going to give the khutbah. Usually before the khutbah, I don't want to talk to nobody. I'm thinking about the khutbah, what I'm going to say, So basically, I'm going there to lead salah and give the khutbah, and this dude comes to me, the day of Eid al-Adha. And he said, Imam, I need to talk to you right now. I said, dude, can we talk after salah and after khutbah? He said, no, right now. Okay, what do you want? Can I divorce my wife right now? I said, dude, this is the day of Eid, I'm busy with the khutbah and stuff. Just get out of here, man. Another example, I was going to give khutbatul Jum'ah, and I'm ready, mashallah, with the imamatul azhan, and I'm going and I'm focused on the khutbah, and this guy comes, Imam, I can't sleep at night. I have this question. You have to answer me right now. And I say, can we talk after the khutbah right now? No, I want the answer right now. Okay, what do you want? And he said, الجن بيبيض ولا بيولد? The question was about jinn. Do they give birth or lay eggs? I said, well, what the heck? Dude, how do I know? Like, how do I know? Like, what? People waste my time. What color is the black stone? Really? ما عدد المعلقات السبعة. Come on, dude. What's wrong with you? Right? Wallahi, this is why, brothers and sisters, this is why imams die young. Heart attacks, blood pressure. Life expectancy is like 45, we just die. It's crazy. But the Sahaba, they were very wise. They would come to Rasulullah. They didn't waste his time. They asked about the most beloved deeds to Allah. Number 4, استثمار الأماكن والأوقات الفاضلة. So the Sahaba would ask Rasulullah ﷺ about of course, he taught them about the special times and the special places. So for example, if you pray one Salatul Isha at the Haram in Mecca, this equals 100,000 Salatul Isha in this masjid, right? The masjid in Medina, 1,000. The masjid al-Aqsa, 500. If you pray Salah or 2 rak'ahs, Masjid Quba, Rasulullah said in Musnad Imam Ahmad, this equals Umrah. So these are special places. The special times like Laylatul Qadr, a special time, the day of Arafah, the day of Ashura, the day of Jum'ah after Salatul Asr, a special time for dua, and so on and so forth. Not all the times and places are the same. Some ibadat are better than others, they generate more hasanat than others. So for example, holding the door for someone is a good deed, but feeding the hungry, this generates more hasanats. Lying about me saying that I gave khutbah in this masjid yesterday, but I didn't, is not like lying about Allah, saying that Allah has children. So lying about human beings is not lying about Allah. This is a more horrible sin, and so on and so forth. So basically, there is something called tawfiqul hidayah or hidayat tawfiq, that Allah will guide you to do the right thing in the right time and the right place to generate more hasanat, right? So basically, I know some people, they go for Umrah, for example, they do their Umrah, they stay there for 2-3 days, and they pray their namaz in the hotel. You know, you pray in the haram 100,000 rak'at, you pray in the hotel. One of my friends, wallahi, he told me, he knows a guy, he's one of his friends, he lives in Mecca, inside Mecca, and the guy was probably 20, 25 when my friend told me the story. He said, wallahi, this guy, he never prayed a single rak'ah in the haram. Not once. Not once. He doesn't know what the haram looks like from the inside. There's something that happened with me personally. I know a friend in Edmonton. He came to me one day with tears in his eyes. I said, dude, what happened? He said, well, I was working as a driver between Mecca, Medina, Jeddah for 16 years. And I never did Umrah, I never did Hajj. Now he moved to Edmonton, he was there for like a number of years. He said, now I have to go for Hajj. I have to take time out of my work. I have to save like $50,000 because he said, I'm going. His wife said, you have to take me with you. You don't love me anymore? So he said, okay, you're coming with me. Then his mom called, you are taking your wife. I carried you in my belly for 10 years and I fed you for like 7. Okay, khalas, you're coming. Then his uncle, his aunt and everybody, okay. He said, wallah, if I did it when I was there, it wouldn't have cost me like a cup of coffee. But Allah didn't give them tawfiqul hidayah, right? So you have to think about the legacy that you can leave behind, inshallah. So basically, the legacy that you can leave behind, for example, leaving good Muslim kids. Good Muslim kids. This is a good legacy. If Allah blessed you with money, donate to the masajids, right? If Allah blessed you with free time, volunteer. If you have a good voice, call the adhan. But you should really have a good voice, because everybody thinks they have a good voice, even though they sound like Donald Duck, you know. You should have a good voice, man. You know, you start making adhan and the birds are falling from the sky and people are falling down in the, you know. But so you have to utilize the gift that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you in the same way that the Sahaba did. Now, when you think of the Sahaba of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, every time a Sahabi comes to your mind, you will sum them up in one word. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, Khadija, sincerity. Uthman radiallahu anhu, generosity. Umar ibn al-Khattab, justice. Bilal, his voice. Ali ibn Abi Talib, bravery and sacrifice. So every one of them, Allah gifted them with something, right? So what is your legacy? What do you think people will say about you after you die? Allah hara'ukan tallahin ummina fil. Is this your legacy? You know, something that you should leave behind that people will always remember you for. You know, ما كناش بنعرف نركز ولا ركعة في الصلاة. You know, his phone is ringing all the time, and he's, you know, what is your legacy? You know, you have to believe in yourself, right? And you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you are able to do something and leave a legacy behind. If you don't believe in yourself, nobody will. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam believed in himself. When he came out, I'm Rasulullah, everyone was against him. Then one by one, people accepted his message. Rasulullah now has 1.8 billion followers. He believed in himself, right? I heard the story of the two frogs. One was big, one was small, and the frogs were hopping around in the village, in my village, and they were looking for food. And they ended up inside a little room in the village. So basically, they kept hopping around looking for food. They landed into a pot of milk. So they tried to jump out, but the milk was liquid. They couldn't get out. So eventually, after 10 minutes, 15 minutes of paddling and swimming, the old frog said to the small frog, "You're an idiot. You're wasting your time. We're doomed. We're going to drown here. Just stop paddling and swimming and die in peace." So the small frog said, "No, I'm not giving up. I will keep paddling and swimming." And eventually, the big frog started to make fun of the small one and stopped paddling. Eventually, the big one drowned and died. And the small frog kept paddling and swimming. And after 1 hour, eventually the milk turned into butter. And eventually, the small frog was able to jump out. So you have to believe in yourself, right? People will always come to you, you want to become Hafidh al-Quran? Like, who are you? You're not going to be able to do it. No chances, zero, right? If you fall for what they say, you will not be able to achieve anything. Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, Rasulullah made dua for him. He saw a great potential in him. He made dua for him. And after Rasulullah died, Abdullah ibn Abbas was only 10 years old. So he said to an old man from Al-Ansar, it's an authentic story, let's go around and collect the knowledge of Rasulullah, hadith and his tafsir of certain ayat. And so the man said, like, aapke saath koi mushkil hai? Who are you? Do you think the Sahaba will need your knowledge? So Abdullah ibn Abbas said, I didn't listen to him. I moved from one house to another, sunny days, dusty days, and I was sitting there in front of people's homes to learn from them. I was covered with sand, and I learned as much as I could. Eventually, the Sahaba like Abu Bakr, like Umar radiallahu anhu, Khalifa, he would come to ask me, and I was a young man. And people in the hundreds, Sahaba would come and learn from me. And he said, the old man said, the Ansar who refused to go out and learn with him, he said, I was wrong. Abdullah ibn Abbas was right. He was more intelligent than me, right? So don't listen to people. So there was this African American guy. I'm going to give you just a couple of quick stories. Maybe they will change your life and motivate you to leave a legacy, inshallah. So this African American guy growing up in the 1970s, he was probably in grade 6, 7. So basically, he submitted a paper just like the rest of his classmates. So the next morning, his racist teacher, she asked the first white guy, what would you like to be? And he said, I want to be an engineer. And she said, Takbir. She put a star in his forehead. She was not Muslim. She didn't really say Takbir. And the next white guy, what would you like to be? He said, I want to be a doctor. And she said, Takbir. Another star. Then came the turn of this African American guy. And she asked him, what would you like to be? And he said, I want to be on TV. The guy had a stutter. He couldn't speak smoothly, right? So she started to make fun of him. She called him in front of the class. She tarred and feathered him and made fun of him. And she said, has your dad ever been on TV? She said, no. How about your mom? Has she ever been on TV? He said, no. He said, if your dad, your mom, none of them has ever been on TV, you can't even talk. You are so pathetic. Do you think you'll be on TV one day? Okay, but this guy believed in himself, right? And you can watch his interview on YouTube. Have you heard of Steve Harvey? Raise your hand. So this is a story of Steve Harvey, right? And he said in that interview on YouTube, he said every single year around Christmas, he makes sure that he buys the most expensive LCD screen and he ships it to his teacher. The sucker is still alive. So she can watch me on TV. Wallahi, you can watch the guy. So I'm going to conclude with this story. So basically, this is a story of a little boy from Egypt, miskin guy. So he was born in a small village and he had no potential of going to school, right? His mom put up a big fight for him to go to Al-Azhar and study and, you know. So basically, they had no school in the village. He had to walk 1 hour one way, 1 hour back at the end of the day, and so on and so forth. Eventually, he graduated high school. He became the first educated person in the history of his family. So basically, he joined Al-Azhar University to study Islam and English. His English was in the basement. So at the age of 20, he joined the Islamic Studies and English department to study Islam and English. His English was so horrible. So basically in high school at Al-Azhar, they didn't have the best English teachers. So basically they taught him to say, it's too much. If you go to the doctor and you say, and I have a problem, it's too much, they wouldn't know what you're talking about. So basically he had a problem in his stomach. My biryani is so delicious, delicious. I have extensive experience, language. So basically his friends were making fun of him and so on and so forth. He decided to do something about it, So basically there was this amazing guy in the classroom. His name was Muhammad. So he was one of the top students. His English was amazing. So this guy went to him and he said, Muhammad, I'm struggling here. Would you please help me a little bit with my English? Maybe we can talk 5-10 minutes every day. So you'll help me with my spoken English. And Muhammad said, no, dude, your English is so horrible. If I talk to you in English, you're going to spoil my English. Thank you, bye-bye, shut the door. In Egypt, we use the word shalut. Have you heard the word shalut before? It means a kick from behind. So this day, this guy, he got the biggest shalut of his life. Shalut on his face. So they say in the village, if you get a shalut from behind, it shouldn't make you fall down, it should move you forward, push you forward. So that night, after he prayed Salatul Isha, he made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and said, Ya Allah, Anta Rabbul Alameen. You created the heavens and the earth and the stars and the galaxies. You created Naveed Aziz, you know. You created amazing things, you know. It is not difficult for you to help me learn English. And I promise you tonight that I'm going to use it for da'wah to teach people about Islam. And subhanAllah, from that night, he started to listen to the BBC, Shakespeare, to read books, stories, and so on and so forth. And after 3 years, he graduated, not only at the top of his class, the top of the entire English department, and within a few months, they hired him as a professor to teach Islam and English at Al-Azhar. Muhammad actually failed last year. Why? Because he felt like he made it to the top. He started to look down upon people. There's no room for improvement. I'm the best. Everybody else sucks, you know. So, and this is the worst thing that you can do, right? So this guy, mashallah, he graduated bachelor's, straight A's. He got his master's, he got his PhD, and he taught at Al-Azhar. And eventually in 2007, he moved to North America, then to Canada. And basically he produced, I believe, one of the finest translations of the Quran. It's called the Clear Quran. You can download the free app from your app store, the Clear Quran. And basically, when this guy was born in 1977, I was there for his birth. And when he got married 14 years ago, I was there for his wedding. And every morning when I look at the mirror, I see this guy because I just told you my story. Takbir. So the reason I'm telling you this is not to brag, oh, I'm a good guy. No, I'm not that good, really. But if you want to achieve anything in life, you want to leave a legacy, just put your trust in Allah, have a good niyyah, and work hard, and Allah would help you. Imam Hussam Hilal, he's doing an amazing tafsir. Google him. His Quran journey, tafsir of the entire Quran in an amazing way. If you would like to study Quran in depth, Imam Hussam Hilal, Quran journey, and study with him, inshallah ta'ala. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our ibadat and the good that we do. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us sincerity in everything we say and do. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us leave a legacy. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us shafa'atul Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, gather us together with him in Jannatul Firdaus, to accept the good, forgive the bad, and to give us the best in this life and the best in the life to come. Ameen, ameen, ya Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Wa jazakum Allah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.